All the rites were fulfilled to the letter. The camels all decked in their special sacrificial garments. The men all in their white garb.
The Muslims set out on the perilous trip to Mecca, crossing the vast desert without any arms to defend themselves. When they reached Hudaybiyah, just outside the sacred area around Mecca where violence was forbidden, Muhammad surprised his followers by ordering them not to enter, but to sit and wait. He then sent an emissary to Mecca seeking permission to complete the pilgrimage.
Muhammad knew, of course, that he was putting the people of Mecca into a really impossible position, because if they forbade Arabs to enter the city and perform the rites at the Kaaba, they would be abusing their position as guardians of the holy places. The Meccans themselves did not know what to do.
When the emissary did not return quickly, the Muslims feared the worst. But Muhammad's gambit paid off. The Meccans offered to negotiate a treaty. With tensions running high, Muhammad began dictating its first line by stating his own name.
Ali was taking down the notes with the Meccan negotiator at his side, and when Muhammad began saying, "The Prophet of God," the Meccan said, "I don't believe you're the Prophet of God. I can't sign to that."
So he said, "Fine, Muhammad, son of Abdullah." And many of the Muslims felt that this was a major insult.
The Muslims sitting round at Hudaybiyah watched this in utter dismay. There was almost a mutiny. 1,000 pilgrims stood refusing to accept this. Muhammad went back into his tent where he had his wife Salama, and he said to her, "What shall I do?" And she gave him some excellent advice. Part of the ritual of the Hajj was that you sacrifice a camel. And he went out and he sacrificed one of the camels, and somehow some kind of necessary tension was released.
The ritual sacrifice of an animal traditionally marked the end of the pilgrimage. Grudgingly, the Muslims considered the pilgrimage complete and headed back to Medina. Muhammad had compromised on every major point in the treaty, but he had won the most significant concession. In return for postponing their entry into Mecca for a year, the Muslims had secured 10 years of peace and official recognition as a political entity. Muhammad had proved himself as capable a diplomat as he was a religious leader.
There was wisdom in the treaty, because one of the things that was promised to the Muslims was protection as they moved throughout Arabia, that they would not be harmed, that they could move freely. And what was gained most greatly from that was the dawah, the teaching of al-Islam.
On the way back to Medina, Muhammad told his companion Omar, "I have received a revelation which is dearer to me than anything else beneath the sun." It said, "Surely we have given you a clear victory."
Then more and more and more people came to Islam. More and more people turned to Muhammad. It sent out a huge signal of strength, strength of purpose, utter courage, utter panache, and utter wisdom. That, of course, he could go on to fight. Of course, he could have gone on being the prophet with the sword. But there are times when to make peace is more daring, more creative, and more enduring.
1 year after signing the Hudaybiyah Treaty, Muhammad led his followers on a new pilgrimage to Mecca. After years of rejection, persecution, and humiliation, this was truly a moment of triumph.
The first pilgrimage of the Muslims after Hudaybiyah must have been an extraordinary event for everybody, because the Meccans couldn't bear it. They decamped and went and sat up in the hills and mountains outside the city and watched this. procession, huge procession of Muslims and some of their confederates coming on the Hajj, and as it were taking possession of the city, crying out the pilgrim cry, "Here I am, O God, here I come," in a huge cry.
Then came the moment Muhammad had waited 7 long years to achieve.
Muhammad sends Bilal, an African ex-slave, this lowest of the low in the eyes of the Meccans, up onto the sacred shrine of the Kaaba, what the Meccans regard as their shrine, to deliver the call to prayer. And the hills around Mecca are granite. They're set up for a sonorous voice. And the call to prayer resonates through the valley.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
Bilal was proclaiming for all to hear, there is one God, and Muhammad is his prophet.
It must have been an appalling moment for the Meccans, but an extraordinary moment of exhilaration for the Muslims, performing all the rites punctiliously and then taking no advantage of this, going back peacefully home.
But the peace between the Muslims and the people of Mecca would not last. By the end of the year, the Meccans had broken the Treaty of Hudaybiyah by attacking a clan allied with Muhammad. In response, 10 days into the holy month of Ramadan, Muhammad and a Muslim army of 10,000 men set out to take Mecca by force.
The Prophet felt he was strong enough to be able to conquer Mecca. But as the army approached the city, more and more leaders of the Quraysh, they realized that they were not going to win, and so many decided to join Islam. The Prophet entered the city without resistance.
When he came into Mecca, he came in with his head bowed down. He did not come in as an arrogant, conquering warrior. He comes in humbled by a victory that he sees is from God.
After circling the Kaaba 7 times, Muhammad destroyed each of the 360 idols that surrounded it. He then turned to the vanquished Meccans who had sought refuge inside the shrine, his own brethren who had oppressed and attacked the Muslims for so many years.
He says, if you were in my position right now, what do you think you would do? And the Meccans are afraid they're about to die. And then he says, you are all pardoned. He grants them all amnesty. And this was unheard of in this culture, unheard of in this society, and very unexpected among the Meccans.
The religion that had begun in ridicule and persecution was now thriving throughout the Arabian Peninsula. But shortly after returning to Medina, Muhammad received a premonition of his death. He told his daughter, Fatima, that every year during Ramadan, the angel Gabriel recited the Quran to him and asked him to repeat it. This year, Gabriel had asked Muhammad to recite the Quran twice. I cannot but think, Muhammad said, that my time has come. In February 632, Muhammad made what would be his final pilgrimage to the city of his birth. On his first pilgrimage, he had led a few hundred Muslims back to Mecca. This time, tens of thousands of believers followed in his footsteps.
He arrives in Mecca as the leader of the Muslim people now, not as the enemy of the Meccans. And they begin to perform the rites of the pilgrimage. And during this period, Muhammad defines the rites of pilgrimage as they're performed today.